We're in the end game now. Okay, more like mid-game, but come on. It was too easy. I had to do it. Hello interwebs and welcome to my review of WandaVision episode 4. I actually don't know the title of the episode because I watch these episodes right when they go up on Disney Plus Thursday night, and for some reason Disney doesn't want people to know the titles of the episode they just watched, so I'm just going to call this one the one with all the answers, because that's basically what we got with this. So if you have not seen the episode yet, I'm going to go full into spoilers, and so, yeah, watch the episode before you watch weird person ramble about it on the internet for a long time. Or not. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Do what you do. Anyways, this episode was exactly what I said, the one with all the answers. This episode was definitely going back to sort of the normal MCU type of filmmaking, the sort of regular type of, kind of very similar to what we would see just in an MCU movie. The same like production quality, film angles, things like that. And this episode was much more focused on showing us a lot of the answers to the questions that we got throughout the first 3 episodes. And I was honestly rather shocked that they actually gave us so much explanation and exposition right here that they didn't drag out the mystery a little bit longer. I mean, not every question has been answered. Obviously, there's a couple hints and teases and some things I'm going to speculate about towards the end of this video, but generally this was a lot of like, well, here you go. This is a lot of the answers, which I'm honestly kind of glad for, that they just didn't drag it out too long. I will say, though, that because this episode was a lot of like hitting the beats of explaining and sort of showing us the stuff that we thought was weird in the first 3 episodes, there wasn't a lot of highs in this episode. I feel like I probably would have enjoyed this episode a little bit more if I hadn't known some of the actors and characters that were going to be coming back in this, like Agent Wu or Darcy, or learning that Monica Rambeau was the daughter of the flight pilot from Captain Marvel. Like, I knew all of that beforehand just from background stuff about the show. So if I hadn't known that, and if maybe you hadn't known that going into this, you might be a little bit more shocked and surprised by this. But generally, I was like, oh yeah, this is where Darcy shows up. I'm really excited to see her. And the rest of the episode just felt like a lot of like, oh, okay, so that's where that happened. And there was no like real big highs for me. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed pretty much the entirety of the episode, but I was just sort of like, and all right, that's the next, yep, and oh, that explains that. So I wasn't like overly excited about it, but neither was I disappointed. It was just sort of like, oh yeah, cool. I'm glad that we're getting these explanations and I get some time with these characters. Getting into the specifics of it, I will say the top moment for me was the opening of the episode, was Monica coming back from the snap, coming back at the blip and seeing the absolute chaos of that moment. I mean, I know so many of us, especially here on YouTube, because YouTubes love to speculate and make our own weird theories, but about what happened when Hulk snapped people back to reality in the blip. Like, did people just appear in midair if they were in a plane when they had been snapped before? Things like that. And so I liked seeing some of that chaos going on here. I mean, I know Kevin Feige explained that the Hulk probably thought of, like, when he snapped people back, he said, you know, everyone back safely, so no one's, like, reappearing in the middle of somebody. But I like that the hospital's like, we don't have capacity for all these people. They're just gonna appear right in the middle here, and we don't know what to do with them. There's gonna be sick people coming back. I thought that chaos and that sort of madness of that moment, actually seeing the consequences of it, was insanely cool. Then also we get Monica going to Sword Base. Again, we get that explanation of what Sword is. Again, something that we already kind of presumed, but it was like, oh yeah, this is it. But I liked learning that Monica's mother, the lady from Captain Marvel, I'm blanking on her name off the top of my head, apologies for that, was the one who created Sword. I thought that was an excellent explanation. Monica coming into that and sort of like wanting to be an agent, but she's still kind of having to deal with the consequences of having been gone for 5 years. I like seeing that the world has not just gone back to normal right after the blip. I feel like Spider-Man Homecoming, which is the other piece of media that we've seen post Avengers Endgame, that I felt like it kind of did away with the blip consequences a little bit too easily just to get into its fun Spider-Man movie. It's a good movie. I like Homecoming, but I wish that was one part of it that we got a little bit more of and a little bit more consequences for. And so I'm like, they were actually getting to see that within WandaVision. So I thought that part of the episode was really, really cool. I also like the explanation for her going up to Westview. I appreciated within that context that there was this really creeping dread throughout the entire episode. Like, while I did say that this episode has a much more like tonal consistency with the rest of the MCU as opposed to the more like sitcom-y vibe that we've been getting throughout the other episodes, I did feel like this definitely wasn't the sort of upbeat, excited, comedic vibe that we've gotten from all of the MCU so far. Like pretty much most MCU movies kind of have that upbeat, kind of fun vibe to them. This one definitely has a little bit more of that sort of like dread, horror, tension going through it. Like even when there was kind of happier music going on in a scene, the actual background music was this sort of like tense, creepy, like ethereal kind of music going on in the background that sort of like drove that tension all the way through. So great job there. Everything else was just sort of like setting up and just explaining stuff that we'd seen throughout the episodes. It was nice to see Darcy back. I like seeing her deduce all the stuff that's going on. I like seeing that the broadcasts from WandaVision were actually like going out, and that makes me curious. Are there actual more episodes of WandaVisions than the ones that we get to see? Are there like seasons of these things that we didn't get to see? I thought all that was just a lot of fun, and Darcy just getting invested in the story was nice. Them sort of investigating the people. It's nice to see that there's actual consequences for this too, that it's not just like, oh, Wanda's doing some crazy thing, let her do her thing, that there are people trapped within there. So there is some danger. There's a missing person, as we, alluded to at the beginning of the episode. So there is some like actual urgency to figuring out the situation. You can't just let Wanda do her own thing and have basically a psychotic meltdown within this world. So I like that there's an actual sense of like stakes involved in this beyond just Wanda's personal stakes. So I thought that was interesting. It's a little looser stakes. I wish we got to know like who this missing person is, like it was someone kind of interesting, and maybe that will be elaborated upon in future episodes. But I am glad that that's there, and I'm sort of curious to see if that gets built out any further throughout all of this. What else? Oh, I liked just general stuff that I liked. I liked when they would like go through the barrier, that they would change into like retro period appropriate stuff, like the sword plane gets changed into it, or the jump rope for the guy's rope, or him turning into that beekeeper, and sort of seeing and also getting to see the more horror side of the events that we've already seen in the episode, like Monica getting thrown out or the beekeeper showing up, like the more like flipping the people that we're sort of siding with in those moments, and sort of seeing the horror of what this is from outside Wanda's point of view, I thought was just excellent subversion and repetition of those moments. The other thing too that I found interesting is that Darcy and everyone were getting the commercials that we were seeing. We saw a little hint of that, and I'm surprised they didn't make the connection to things like Hydra and stuff like that. Actually, I feel like Sword would probably know about Hydra. I don't remember how public Hydra eventually got within the MCU. I don't know how publicly aware the Hydra is known, but I feel like people would have caught like the references to Stark and stuff like that. So I'm surprised that we didn't get any references to that, because they were sort of very shocked that Ultron was mentioned. So that was one other thing that I wanted to quick note. Oh, and also one other last thing too, I'll toss in here. I like some small little characterization for Wu. Like Wu is a lot of fun, and I like sort of him retaining that sort of comedy aspect even amongst the sort of tension and dread of the episode, like him having the cards and doing the card tricks. I thought that was just nice to see that character consistency, and sort of making him feel that even though he was in the more comedic Ant-Man movies, he still is the same person within this WandaVision world. So that was kind of nice as well. Speaking on that as a whole, I really like that this show just in general is giving some secondary characters in the MCU some time to shine, like Monica and Darcy and Wu, and honestly Wanda and Vision themselves have kind of been sidelined throughout the entire MCU. So I'm just really liking that this episode really focused in and gave spotlight to some side characters that really deserved a lot more attention and love. And the one other thing too that I really enjoyed seeing was Vision dead. Like that was absolutely terrifying to see Vision without his gem in there, and sort of the horror of Wanda. And Wanda, basically we get confirmation that Wanda is at least nominally aware of everything going on here, that she is conscious of the choice of being in here. Now, I still think that there's more to it than Wanda's the villain. I think that's a little bit simple. I do have a couple theories going on that I'll talk about right at the end, so people who don't want to be spoiled don't have to be spoiled. But I liked seeing that sort of like her like kind of trying to ignore things, because it's understandable. It's understandable that she'd want to be with Vision. But I like the characters outside of the bubble kind of acknowledging that too. It's like brought back 2 Avengers from the dead. This is a sitcom. I like them just acknowledging the weirdness of this going on. Like what what is actually, this is just very, very strange. And so I kind of like that. So overall, I thought this was a good episode. It was nice seeing the characters back. Like, I like seeing Wu, Darcy, learning more about Monica and sort of seeing that background. But generally, I thought the episode was a little bit, just sort of connecting the dots. Not bad, but nothing overly spectacular. But there's certainly a lot to love within it. Just maybe the sort of greater pieces didn't add up to a whole that was like, oh my gosh, amazing. But it's certainly a necessary piece. I don't want to like knock it. I'm not trying to overly hate on it. It's definitely a piece that we needed. It's something that this episode needed to happen. So I've got nothing against it. I have no problems with it whatsoever. But it wasn't exactly the most exciting. But it was just a solid sort of bridge building episode. And I'm very excited to get back to our sitcom, our favorite sitcom, WandaVision, next episode going into the 80s, so that should be a lot of fun. Now, the last thing that I want to end on is some speculation going into this, because I noticed a couple quick things, so I just wanted to put it at the end here, just in case that people didn't want to have any speculation and didn't want any spoilers. So if this is where you're getting off, thank you so much for joining us, but we're going to get into some speculation right now. The quick thing, and really the only piece of speculation that I have, is that when they were going through and finding the cast members, all the people that were stuck in Wanda's vision, obviously you notice, or maybe you didn't, but I noticed that the one neighbor, I forget her name, I'm sorry, I'm always bad with names, so I do apologize with that, but the name of the one neighbor who was sort of like with the guy who was like trimming the hedge last episode, the sort of close friend who was in the very first episode who sort of brought over the food, I forget her name, but she didn't have any ID associated with it. They did not cast her, so that sort of leads me like, oh, maybe she is someone connected with what's going on with Wanda. Maybe she has some more nefarious plans in store. And I also think it's probably tied into that hexagonal pattern. Obviously, Wu wrote on the board that what is the hexagonal pattern. So I think that there's some linking there that I find fascinating. So that's generally my thoughts on WandaVision episode 4. I still don't know what the title is. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Let me know, though, down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more WandaVision reviews and discussions of geek and pop culture and the important issues within them, and sometimes just the weird things that are going on in my brain. I also have a Patreon that you can help me out at and get your name and videos and... Oh, geez, my throat just like stopped there for a second. Anyways, before I cough up a lung, apparently, I hope that you, as always, live long and prosper, friends. Thank you so much to all of my patrons who are helping me achieve my dream of doing this full time, and especially a thank you to Catherine Lambeth, Miranda Janelle, Ashley Allen Bokikio, Eli Bergmoss, Ashlyn Solstice, Michael D., Greg Gillum, Stephen Kleinard, Chamomile T., Ulysses the Pagan, Randy Thompson, Boyd and Mary Beth Earl, Wellington Marcus, Stephen Schuhart, Wayne Twitchell, Roar, Ish the Mad, Dominic Noble, Buttoneer, John Steele, Michael Beam, Jedi Indiana Jones, William Stewart, Gavin Robinson, Nathan Olson, BBD, Amanda Ronye Adanya, The Sir Spence, Jason Knott, Hannah F., Andrew Jorgensen, Maeve, Jasmine, Skylar Gray, Sean Piper, Andrew K., Bree Beecher, Subraxis, Jane Packard and Chloe Dollar, Nathan Steele, Tiffany Danger, Mari Neckar, Wendizzle Bizzle, Bush, W. Randy Eady, Mark the Edge, Piston Twisted Garage, Geek Filter, Gretchen Badger, Polly Mina, Jean Mithune, Sarah Bystam, Lysa, Din, Jacob Tovar, Celestial Dawn, Lily, Andrew Lamoureux, Raina C., Zone 1 Librarian, Michael Hardy, Corey Honkanen, and Vale Dunn. Thank you. You are all beautiful, beautiful people.